What do you?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Two Naive Musicians podcast, the podcast where we
Forget our laptop chargers and have to make this episode go by really, really fast so our computer doesn't die.
let's go.
All right, so today we are actually talking about performance tips. But before we get into that, we're going to go over our top 3 listens of the week. So, Bret, do you have yours pulled up or do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay, so I failed you all. I only have 2 this week.
You suck. Why do you have a podcast?
I know. No, but so I was listening to the Spotify Discover Weekly and came across 2 songs and then looked up the artists and looked up their albums and fell in love. And I've just been listening to those pretty much all week. But the first one is this album called Play With Fire by the Reign of Kindo.
Reign of Kindo.
Kindo. The Reign of Kindo. It's so good. You listened to it before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Reign of Kindo is really cool. They're like jazzy proggy, kind of like if people are familiar with the Deer Hunter. Mm-hmm. They kind of remind me of the Deer Hunter. They're a little more jazzy, a little more upbeat.
Yeah, with horns and stuff. It's super cool. It's like, how do you get that cool, dude? But they do it. That's just what they do. Okay.
All right, Ryan. Don't quit your day job.
I won't. And then my second pick is this album called When My Heart Felt Volcanic by the Aces. I was looking them up. The Aces, they're a pop rock girl band. They're all our age too.
Oh wow.
But they've been together since middle school, I'm pretty sure. So they've been a band for 10 years and then they got signed to Red Bull Records and they dropped this album this year. It's super good. It's like this really cool pop rock, like dun, 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 like really bright poppy guitars.
Yeah.
Like it has like a punk like bass kind of sound to it. It's really cool. Yeah, the songs are really good too.
And you've been telling me to listen to it for like a solid 3 weeks, and I 100% have not listened to it yet.
Damn it, bro.
So your Dan was the closest demo I've had of that. I literally have no idea what it sounds like other than what you're telling them right now.
You're a good friend, Bret.
Hey.
I only listen to everything you tell me to.
I know. I feel so bad. I feel really bad, actually.
You should.
Well, enough of that guilt. My first one is actually kind of a little bit of a revisit. I listened a lot to Paramore in like middle school.
Oh, Paramore.
I have not listened to Paramore in a while. And I just like recently, I don't know, I was just going through my Spotify and a Paramore song came up and I was like, you know what? Like to this, like I've never listened to Riot all the way through. And I haven't listened to any, like I knew their hits in middle school and like, it's actually really good. Mm-hmm. Like I forgot, like, you know, people credit Hayley Williams with just about everything for Paramore. No one, I feel like I never hear anybody really talk about the songwriting or the guitar work, the drum work or the anything else.
Just Hayley
Williams.
Hayley and her vocals.
Yeah. And I feel like that's what you get, for example. Like that's one of their biggest songs, I would argue. And like, it's actually really well written. There are a lot of really cool feel changes. I mean, to anybody who listened to Paramore a lot more than me, I'm just preaching to the choir, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of a nice little rediscovery for me. So Riot by Paramore has some excellent songs.
Dope.
Yeah. My next one takes a little bit of a listening curve for people who aren't into old prog. What I like to do is I make a habit of listening to bands that influence bands I like, or like some of the original prog bands out there. And I was listening to Genesis, Selling England by the Pound. There's a lot of really interesting feel changes, some really nice little guitar solos, like really choral parts, and then really intricate piano parts. It's just a trip to listen to. It's really weird to listen to. It's hard to with a real modern sense of what prog is. It's so different. You know, now I feel like a lot of progressive music is really in your face, really upbeat, lots of things going on, you know. Animals as Leaders, Chon, even Sean's like chill, but there's a lot going on. Old prog of the 60s, it was just so relaxed. Like it had really long, drawn out orchestral moments, and then it was just really dynamic. But yeah, enough of that. And then my last one is
Bret did all his homework and came prepared.
a little bit. I mean, and then the last one is a departure from that completely, and it's Tillian Pearson's solo album, The Skeptic. It is very good.
I haven't heard it.
Yeah, so me personally, when he left Tides of Man, I was kind of bummed about that. They were kind of like Coheed, old Coheed kind of meets more energetic kind of stuff in their second album. But I was really sad that because I really love what he does in Dance Gavin Dance. But they were a little bit different, and his new album has a little bit of Tides of Man in it. It's got a little bit. It's moved it from like a more of electric pop into like real guitars, bass, drums, like more of a band feeling, and it's still really hooky. It's still really catchy, and then it's got Tillian's voice obviously, and it's got a little bit of a Tides of Man vibe. So I can get behind that for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Cuckoo. All right. So with all that, we are going to get into the main topic. Are you ready, Bret?
Yes.
Let's talk about performance for dummies. So, performing. It is the, I don't know, it's like the main thing with music. It's like...
Well, it's what you do.
Yeah, it's
other than
is for
being
performing.
recording stuff.
Yeah, but even then, like, recording is still performing.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty all of music, you practice to perform no matter what you're practicing for. Everything's a performance when it comes to music. And so it's really, really important to know how to do it. Yeah, so in this one, we're kind of just talking about that, talking about what our experience has been performing, things that we kind of focus on when we're preparing for performances, tips that we've figured out over the years, both from the performer side and then also from being in the audience and watching people perform and all that. So I guess we'll just go over this list real quick.
We don't go by a list.
No. Okay.
But so if you've ever been to a show and you felt you were watching the band and they just looked like they were having a great time, and you watch them, and it's like, when I was first getting into music, I would watch bands, and it was almost kind of like magical to me. The fact that they're all in exactly the same moment, doing exactly the same thing, looking so confident, playing in time with each other, and just taking what was silence and filling the room with more than just the sound they're making with their instruments, but they're projecting almost like an energy onto the group, onto the audience.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I would watch that, it just seemed like this mystifying, like, that performance was really good. They must have some strange innate quality that normal people don't have. Mm-hmm. And so we, sometimes we'll go to a concert and like, that guy's a performer. That guy, he's born to do that. Mm-hmm. But I feel like when I hear people talk about a really great concert or something along those, like a performance that really affected them, it's just, I feel like we don't talk about it like a thing that you practice, like a thing that you can measure. Mm-hmm. You know?
And it's like the thing is too, it's like performing is so much more than the lights and the fog and all that. Because I mean, there's tons of groups that have huge shows with crazy lighting, like
it helps, but
yeah, it helps. But I mean, you can have a great performance as just a single acoustic singer-songwriter just sitting in a coffee shop. You can have an incredible performance that impacts people, like sometimes could impact people more than those big shows can. It's just all about knowing how to do it and how to really optimize your message and optimize just how you engage with the audience. So, I mean, with that engagement, big part is you got to bring the audience into the show. You have to bring the audience to you, and a big part of doing that is being at the show. It's like you need to be as much present in what's going on as as you want the audience to be listening to you. So if you're playing your song da 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 or whatever, and you're just off in your own headspace, just off in la la,
or even
land,
just paying attention to what you're doing, like just playing guitar.
Yeah, if you're just focusing on just playing guitar and just looking at your hands the whole time, it's like you're not there. You're there physically, but mentally, emotionally, you're not in the moment. And if you're not in the moment, if you're not at the show, then the audience isn't going to want to be either.
Well, yes. I mean, don't get us wrong. Like, there are really big bands out there who do nothing. There are really big bands out there that don't make an effort to connect with their audience. Like really great bands will just get up there, they'll look at their hands, they'll play the song, and they'll get off stage. Tons of really successful bands do that, but it's really helpful if you don't.
Yeah,
it's really, really helpful if you don't. It adds a whole other element of connection with the audience.
Definitely. And I mean, yeah, because you can do anything and have a good show, but to really, you want to put your best foot forward, and the best way to do that is to be present. And I feel like even guys who do this, just staring at their hands, they perform great, they play incredible and all that. There's still that disconnect between audience and performer, and you never want that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, some people want that, but most of the time you don't want that.
And I feel well, at least with younger bands or people that don't have a lot of performing experience, you get up there, and even, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not an expert. I mean, that's why we're the Two Naive Musicians podcast. But like, even when I get on stage, I get a little nervous. Like, you'll hear from really experienced musicians. They'll get on stage after doing it for years, and it can still terrify you. But the key is to look like you're confident and you know what you're doing. And the number one thing to do to get more confident is to be prepared. If you're as prepared as you possibly can be, I mean, that's going to cut down on any like fear or like, I get kind of shaky, when I'm trying to play and stuff. But if I've practiced it a ton, it helps a lot.
Yeah. And yeah, like with preparation, you want to, there's a couple things that we put on here about preparation. You want to rehearse the show. So all the best shows that I've ever seen, usually it's like a band's going on tour and they're playing like the album name tour. So like if it was the Reign of Kindo,
there it is. There it is.
They'd be doing the Play with Fire tour, or the Aces doing the When My Heart Felt Volcanic tour, or whatever. So there's a single show. It's this show that we're putting on tour. Or like with movies, like it's this movie, it's the same movie every time. The beauty with shows is you have the room to be able to change things up on the fly when you want to, but for the most part it's like we're playing these songs in this order. We're having this section where we're doing a break for introducing the band, for telling some jokes, for doing whatever it is that you're wanting to do with the show, which can be anything because it's your show.
But the key is being organized and prepared.
Yeah, and knowing what's going on. And you want to know how you want the audience to feel about it. You want to know what message you're trying to put across, what feeling you're trying to put across, and plan your show accordingly. Because the more you have put together, the easier it is to
be engaged in the moment, looking like you care.
Yeah. And then make sure that you're actually sending out the message that you want to. Kind of going back to the engagement a little bit is like you want to make people feel like they're part of the show, like using eye contact and like just kind of like getting down and looking at them. And the best way to get all that together is by being prepared, because it's easier to look at other people and not pay attention to your instrument or trying to remember words if you're the singer or something, if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, because if playing music is really scary to you, or if you feel unprepared, just kind of staying really still and looking at your hands, it's like a safe place to be. You're not really looking out at the audience, you're not really moving, you're just kind of staying in your comfort zone, playing your instrument, doing your thing. But if you're prepared, if you set out to do this thing, you've practiced, you know how the show is going to go, everything is just set, it helps so much to just clear that headspace to be able to be in the moment and to enjoy the show as much or more than your audience is. It should be really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I remember our first performance when we did the talent show our freshman year.
That was terrifying.
It was so terrifying.
That was the scariest thing in my life.
Our thing that we did was we were like, oh, we're gonna make this our band thing, because we were all terrified to go on stage. We're like, we're gonna wear aviator sunglasses so we can't see anybody.
We were freshmen in high school or something.
Yeah, we're like, oh, if we have the sunglasses on, we won't be able to see the audience, and so we'll look cool, and then we won't be able to see them, so we won't be as terrified. I was still like just as terrified.
Yeah, but they thought it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, so go ahead and try that. If you're super scared, just
wear sunglasses.
Yeah, wear sunglasses.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But so knowing the show, you want to know what you want the audience to feel. So when you're preparing, you're planning, you want to know the songs. You want to know the order of the songs, the set list, talking points, jokes, transitions, your space. It's okay, like, if you want space in your show, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to want some sort of space, some sort of, like, dip in your show. It's because planning a show is the same way as planning any song. You have your intro. Most of the time you want the intro to be kind of like in your face, grab your attention, and so you start the show with a song that grabs your attention, and then you kind of build up, and then you do a drop down, kind of like a roller coaster. So you want to take people on an emotional journey with your show the same way you want to take people on an emotional journey with your song.
Yeah, and what I've heard from a lot of different, like, older musicians, I don't know if this is like something that when I go to shows, I notice that a lot of people follow this pattern. But a lot of the time, people will start off with a really attention-grabbing show. That way, whoever's in the bar, whatever, doesn't just go off and get a drink or whatever. You grab their attention, and then they're there. And the first couple songs, like, the first one is always an attention grabber, and then you just play some pretty good energetic songs, and then near the middle is where you start to put your slower, quieter, chiller ones. And then you just end it with something like, that keeps them there again. So it's just kind of a little dip,
like scoop in the mids.
Yeah, it's like
out of your bass tone.
Yeah, whatever the upside down parabola is.
Yeah,
whatever that one's called.
Unparabola.
Yeah.
I don't know math.
But so everything Ryan was saying about smiling and looking at the people, that's a great thing to do. A lot of these things are just dependent on what you would like to project to your audience. So bottom line is, whatever you're doing, it helps a million times more if you're confident. You've been practicing. We've said that a million times already. But say you're a deathcore band and you want to have you have a lot of strings, a lot of synths. It's like really just like, it's a really
beefy,
this really
angry,
not even just angry, because like a foreboding kind of spooky kind of thing going on. Like a lot of deathcore bands have that kind of stuff. Smiling wouldn't necessarily be conducive to portraying the idea that you want to give to the people. You want to, but I mean, if you're a punk band or a pop band or anybody, it's good to engage the audience however you intend to do it. But whatever you do, you should do it with intention.
Yeah, be intentional about everything.
Yeah.
So,
and these are the kinds of things you can plan ahead of time. If like I was saying, it's all about demystifying the idea that playing a show is just this magical thing that just happens. And in the best way to feel confident and to be doing well at shows, practicing performing itself. And if you've been practicing for a while, just like performing whenever you can, open mics, any show you can get while you're getting early on. Like, your first show is never going to be the best.
Yeah.
Ever. It's the people that have, and those shows where you go there and they just blow your mind. It's usually because they've done it before. It's because they know what it's like to be on stage. They are prepared. They probably have a sense of what they're doing, list order wise. And it's everything that we've been, saying.
Oh, just so you know, looks like the computer's at 63%. I think we can get through the whole podcast.
We definitely can.
Yeah.
We can make this podcast 50 minutes.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I'll just read the phone book or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but so I'm kind of diving in a little bit more on preparation. memorize the songs.
I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, that should be a no-brainer. Like, you don't want to have to bring music on. You wanna know what you're playing. The only time it's like, if you're playing in a band, say you're doing like a pit orchestra, you're pretty much, it's totally,
or like maybe a wedding band. Sometimes they'll have music.
Yeah, or like I know at church bands they always have a chord chart there.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if the show itself is one that permits having music, have music. It's totally fine. But don't be sight reading. If you don't know what that term means, it's basically like just kind of like reading it as you play it.
Yeah.
So it's like live reading.
Like it's new to you. Don't make sure the music's not new to you. Like
yeah,
you know how it goes.
Yeah, you know what's happening, and so using the having the music there is more of just like a last resort. Like, oh, I don't remember if this is going to come up. Like, oh crap, was that an A minor or an A major? And you can look like, okay, it was an A major chord or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's just referenced just for like last minute, like, oh, I don't remember exactly, but for the most part, you know what you're playing. And then how you dress, Bret. Dressing is very important. You don't want to be on stage naked unless you're the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Call me salad because I be dressing.
That's so good.
But yeah,
like you wanna dress. How you dress has a huge. It says so much about what you're trying to say. Like, I mean, you don't need to have everybody wearing a suit and tie,
or even the same thing necessarily.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be like the same.
Yeah, not everybody has to be wearing a yellow turtleneck.
I mean, that'd be kind of cool.
In some cases it's pretty cool to have everybody wear the same stuff. But when we say plan the attire, it's not necessarily that. But I mean, you want to say like, oh, we're a rock band. We want to give off the portrayal that we are edgy. We don't really care about what people think of us. We want to stick it to the man or something like that. If that's what you're vibing, what you're trying to get across, your message, then you want to dress accordingly. So maybe you're wearing a lot more black. Maybe you have some some chains or some like studs on your shirt, or maybe you're wearing like a black vest with no t-shirt underneath. So it's like bare chested, black vest, black skinny jeans. I don't know.
I mean, I think that
like an indie thing, like wearing a flannel and jeans.
And it's not even necessarily that your genre has to necessarily determine how you dress.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that what I find is that a lot of musicians these days, even if they're not in metal bands, if they're like in proggy bands or rock bands or whatever, there's just kind of a look nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Black skinny pants are a big thing still.
Yeah, and then like the collared shirt.
Yeah, or like stuff like that,
Yeah. So it's like know how you want to dress, and know also when you're performing, you can get away with pretty much anything when you're wearing. I mean, like,
as long as it helps your show. It's all about what you want to portray. As long as that's in mind and that helps what you're trying to bring across to your audience, then I mean theoretically anything's fair game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know like David Bowie with the Ziggy Stardust outfit.
Yeah, or even not too long ago, it was kind of long ago, when I was in Vita Occulta, we played with Arsonists Get All the Girls, and I don't know if anybody's seen them play.
Was that the one I saw?
At Shotsky's?
No. I remember it was like Dormanju or something.
Oh, Daikaiju. That was a different... Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah, okay. First one. So this is all on the, like, you can dress however you want. If it's a gimmick, gimmicks help people remember you sometimes. I mean, if that's what you're about. But I remember when I saw Arsonists Get All the Girls, the vocalist was wearing this really big straw hat, like a really big straw hat. Like I couldn't even see his face most of the time. And then the other guy right next to him, like I think he was the bassist, like right next to him was wearing like solid like black leather pants, and like he had like the long straightened like 2007 black hair that was just just
perfectly straight,
long
down
on the sides and like weirdly kind of flat on top. That was interesting. And then, I mean, but I haven't forgotten about that show. Like, I remember exactly, like, or Daikaiju, for example. Great band, by the way, if anybody wants to check them out. They're like kind of surf They
surf metal.
they're not even really metal. They're like instrumental surf. They're like surf punk maybe. But they wore like, I think they're kabuki masks, like these Japanese like white masks.
They were like they were cool.
Yeah, it made it really.
It was
cool.
like weird but cool, and they didn't. I don't think they wore shirts.
They didn't wear shirts.
None of them
and
wore
they had
shirts.
the white masks, and it was really memorable. I mean,
that show was crazy too. Like that. Like if you want to know audience engagement, that was crazy. Like
yeah, they set a cymbal on fire. They were running around in the crowd. I mean, that kind of stuff.
They piled their drums on top of me.
Yeah.
At the end of the show, like they did a part where they had like the drums. They like had people take different drums, and they were like holding some of the set out by the bar. So the drummer was over there, the bassist was like on the other side of the room, the singer was somewhere else,
and then they just laid him down. Yeah, they didn't stop playing. They were still playing.
They told me to lay down, so I'm like holding the cymbal as I'm like trying to lay down, and he's still playing the cymbal as I'm holding it. And I'm so glad that I had earplugs because
it would have been so.
It would have been so bad. But then at that point, like I had laid down, and they started putting like drums on top of me. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on, and they started playing, and then all of a sudden they were just piling drums on top of me, and I had the entire drum set like piled on top of me, and then like lights went back on, and I'm like, where did they go? And they had like run back to the dressing room to go.
And they just left him.
They just left me there with a pile of drums on top of me. Yeah. And then I was like, can somebody help get these off of me?
That's engaging. I mean, they can't go anywhere if there's drums piled on them.
Yeah. So
Ryan has no choice.
Yeah, I have no choice but to be at your show. So all this to say, if you want the audience to stay, pile your drums on.
Like if you see someone just like walking over to the bar, like they're just done with your music, just walk over to them and just put a cymbal on them, and then just kind of slowly pile gear on them until they can't move.
Yeah. And then it'll show everybody else not to leave, or that'll happen to them.
And then they set a cymbal on fire, and that was pretty wild. That was pretty wild.
Yeah, I saw him too, because he like looked at the manager, was like, "Don't do," like looked at it,
don't
death
do
glare
it.
was like, "Do not light that on fire." Like, and then he just like looks at him.
He's like nodding, like light it on fire, light it on fire.
And the guy's like, "No, do not do that." And he
was like, little bit, and then. That was the other part of their gimmick, because they didn't say anything when they were in the masks. They were like completely they did not talk at all,
except for the singer. But he only made noise when he was singing.
He was like, "Hey," he didn't.
Yeah, only his singing. Yeah. He wouldn't actually talk. He just sang, and that was it was cool.
But all that's a big roundabout way of saying there are a lot of different ways to engage the audience, and as you might have gathered, everything they did was intentional. They did it to engage the audience. They ran around. They got uncomfortably close to people in the crowd. They set a cymbal on fire. They piled drums on Ryan. Yeah. And that was a memorable show. People have been talking about that, ever since. You go to anybody who's at the show, and you're like, "Hey, remember the Daikaiju show?" And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I do."
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, I do. Like, and I can almost guarantee you, if they came back into town, most of those people would go and see him again. And it was extremely memorable. Yeah. Your
show gives should be as memorable, if not more memorable, than your music.
Yeah, I mean, because people go there, and it's like what they almost remember more than the music is the feeling they got when they were there,
the excitement, or maybe if it's a low key, like a depressing kind of song. If you do like a lot of sad songs or whatever,
touched my heart.
Yeah, it touched my heart. Like, oh, I felt what you felt. And that's the thing, like a lot of the times you can do that better in a live setting of letting them feel what you were feeling when you wrote the song than you can just over the radio.
And the best way to take advantage of that is by letting them in and feel that with you.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like when you're trying to engage your audience, I mean, you don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to jump around. Eye contact is nice with the audience, but there are bands that don't necessarily have to do that. But it's like, but if you look like you're kind of moving, you're kind of into what you're doing, you're not just standing there, that's a start. It's still better than just standing there. You know?
And crap, it's like at 30 minutes, but we still have some things to talk about.
That's fine. We'll go.
Let's just go over this episode. We're going to go over the 30 minutes. So if you were counting,
we're breaking the seal.
We're breaking
the seal.
Sometimes it just happens.
And then now the rest of our podcasts are going to be like 50 minutes.
Yeah. Now we're going to be at like 2 hours. But so another thing, movement.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, we've kind of been talking about it a little bit, but just like kind of pressing on it. Like, you don't want to just be a statue unless you want to be a statue.
Yeah. So there are times. Yeah. So there are times. So I mean, this all comes down to how you want beating a dead horse. But when I saw Periphery live, they had this wild light setup, and they're kind of moving around. They're not a super wild band. Their singer Spencer, he was engaging the audience a ton. They were all kind of engaging it, but that's not the point. The point is, right before a really heavy part, it was really just like genty, just da 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 da, like the lights just shut off, and then every time they played, the lights, like they're like floodlights or something behind them, would just like be like make a silhouette on stage, and they're just standing there like with like a wide stance, just standing there and
perfectly still.
Yeah, and then you just see a silhouette every time they play, and they were just perfectly still, and it looked super cool. And it's just like there's all kinds of different ways to bring it across. You know, it's really about having the mindset where you can prepare a good show, you can practice a good show. You don't just go there, you play, and you hope the show goes well. If you prepare these things and know what you're trying to do, that's how you get the shows that are really memorable.
Yeah. And I guess our last two things, we're going to confidence and filming your set.
Like, we were talking about confidence a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about filming our set.
Filming your set? Yeah. So, I mean, the best way to know what's going on is to just film it. Like, if you film your set, you can watch back. You can see what you were doing. You can kind of critique yourself the same way like a basketball player or a football player will watch tapes of their own playing and be like, oh, I messed up my footing there. I need to practice that more. The same way you can watch your show and you can be like, okay, right there, everybody was standing too still. Like, there was no engagement. We were all looking at our guitars, or we were doing this, that, and like, okay, we need to pay attention to how we can fix that in the next show. And so then you use those videos, and that could just be like someone taking an iPhone video, or it could be you bring a camera and you actually set it up, and it doesn't have to have like great audio, but you could just have a camera set up on the side just filming you guys, so you can at least see what's going on
and see what you look like while you're playing. Yeah, because if you could be like the best guitarist in the world, you could, or just a really solid, really great band, and even if people come away loving your show with you just standing there watching your instrument, there's just this huge, just untapped like side. This is huge missed opportunity. Yeah. And by watching it and watching what you did, you can see like, oh, I could have been moving around a little more here. Oh, I could have, engaged the audience a little more, I could have, or if you told a really cringy joke by accident, you could watch it and you're like,
I'm not doing that joke again.
Yeah, that was bad.
I need to think of a joke that I can use in those situations or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all that preparation is key. Be intentional and put on a great show. So yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Two Naive Musicians podcast. It has been an awesome time hanging out with you guys. You can like our page on Facebook, you can follow us on Instagram, and you can actually watch a video version of this podcast on YouTube, which I'm just now looking at the camera and realizing that it stopped filming at about 30 minutes.
Heck yeah. Probably ran out of memory or something.
Yeah, so if you guys are watching the YouTube version of this, sorry that this last couple minutes has been just a picture of us. So
yeah, rip.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. But thank you guys so much, and we look forward to talking to you guys next week.
Peace.
Later.
So.
Okay.